The box that moved on its own, David sat alone in his small workshop. It was his 30th birthday, but there were no balloons, no party, no cake. Just another quiet day with wires, tools, and machines. He didn't mind. People always said he was strange. He liked silence more than noise, machines more than humans. At exactly 3:00 p.m., a delivery truck stopped outside. David looked out the window, confused. He hadn't ordered anything. The driver jumped down, looked at a list, then at David's door. "Delivery for David Thorne," he called out. David opened the door. "That's me." A large metal box, almost his height, was lowered from the truck. It was black, with glowing silver lines and no visible handles. "No return address," the driver said, scratching his head. "Came through some international ports, or maybe interplanetary." He laughed, not knowing how close to the truth he was. David signed and wheeled the box inside with effort. It was heavy. The box had a tag. "Happy birthday, human, from a friend," and under that, in red letters, "Exotic gift, handle with care." He stared at it, unsure. It had no buttons, no opening, just a smooth metal surface. Then, thump. He jumped back. The box had moved. Something inside had hit the wall. David's heart started beating faster. "What the hell?" Thump. Again. Louder. He stepped closer. He placed his hand on the surface. Thump, thump, thump. Now it was shaking. Something, or someone, was inside. He ran to grab his tools. Within minutes, he managed to cut a small hole through one of the box's corners using his plasma torch. Steam hissed out. Cold fog spread across the floor. Then, a small hand reached out. Pale. Thin. Not human. David froze. The hand pushed against the inside, and finally, the front panel slid open. Lying inside was a young alien woman. She had glowing blue skin that shimmered softly under the workshop light. Long, silver-white hair spilled over her shoulders. Her body was covered in a thin silver fabric that looked more ceremonial than practical. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was weak. David stared, unsure what to do. He had seen alien species on news reports, but never in person, and never delivered like cargo. She suddenly gasped and curled in, shivering. Her body was cold. Too cold. Without thinking, David pulled a blanket from the shelf and covered her. He lifted her out gently, carrying her like glass. She was light, fragile, scared. Her eyes blinked open slowly. They were bright violet, beautiful, but full of confusion and fear. "I'm not going to hurt you," David said softly. "You're safe, here." She looked at him but didn't speak. Instead, she reached out weakly and touched his face. Her fingers trembled. Then she passed out again. David placed her on his old couch and turned on the heater. He brought her water and sat nearby, trying to understand who sent her. He whispered to himself. And why me? He looked back at the box. Still cold. Still glowing. Was this some kind of mistake? A prank? Or a warning? But when he looked at the alien woman again, wrapped in his blanket, breathing slow and soft, he didn't feel fear. He felt something else. Responsibility. He didn't know her name. He didn't know what species she was. But he knew one thing. She didn't belong in a box. She didn't deserve to be treated like a thing. David stayed up, all night sitting near her. The birthday he expected to spend alone had turned into something else, not a party, not a gift, something stranger, something more dangerous, something beautiful. She wasn't programmed to speak. The alien woman didn't move for hours. She lay on David's couch, wrapped in his old brown blanket, her face calm but pale. David sat nearby watching her closely. He checked her breathing every few minutes. Each breath was slow, weak, but steady. She looked like she had come from a dream, too perfect to be real. Her blue skin had a faint glow. Her long lashes fluttered now and then, like she was trapped in a bad memory. Her silver hair was tangled but still shining under the lamp. David tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking. He had fixed machines, built drones, and solved hard problems, but nothing in his life had prepared him for this. She was not just an alien. She was someone's property. Someone had sent her here like an object. He whispered to himself, "What do I do now?" As the sun started to rise, she finally moved. Her fingers twitched. Her lips parted. She opened her eyes. Violet eyes. Soft and glowing. David leaned forward. "Hey, can you understand me?" She blinked slowly. Her head turned. She looked around, confused. Then her eyes landed on David. She sat up fast, startled, and fell off the couch. "Wait, no, it's okay." David rushed to help her, but she crawled backward on the floor, afraid. Her eyes were wide. Her body shook. She held up her hands, almost like saying, "Don't hurt me." "I'm not going to hurt you," David said, kneeling down. He spoke, slowly and clearly. "You're safe." She didn't understand the words, but she saw his hands. Empty, no weapons. She stopped moving and stared at him. David stood up and walked a few steps away, giving her space. She watched him carefully. Slowly, she stood too, wrapping the blanket tighter around herself. David pointed to his chest. "David. My name is David." She tilted her head, then she pointed weakly to herself. Elena, David repeated. She nodded slowly. David smiled. "Okay, Elena." She repeated his name, unsure. Vit. Close enough. David brought her a glass of water. She flinched when he came near, but took it with shaking hands. She sipped it carefully, then drank faster as if she hadn't had clean water in days. He brought her warm soup. She smelled it first, then ate slowly. Like each bite might be a trick. As she ate, David noticed something strange. Her arms had tiny scars, faint but visible. Around her wrists, ankles, and neck were marks like metal restraints had been there for a long time. His stomach turned. "She wasn't sent as a gift," he whispered. "She was a prisoner." When she finished eating, she looked around the room. Her eyes landed on a mirror across the wall. She stood and walked toward it slowly. She stared at her reflection, touched her own face, then looked down at the silver robe she wore, and then tears filled her eyes. David stood quietly. He didn't speak. He just watched. She turned around, looking at him. Her voice was soft and broken. "I am not gift," she said slowly, one word at a time. David felt his chest tighten. She could barely speak English, but she knew what she was. Or what someone wanted her to be. "You don't belong to anyone," he said gently. "Not anymore." She looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, "Free?" He nodded. That one word, free, made her cry. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks as she sank to her knees. She didn't sob. She didn't speak. She just wept quietly, like someone who had been holding pain for too long. David didn't move closer. He knew she needed space. But in that moment, he made a promise in his heart. No matter who sent her, no matter what danger followed, he would protect her. She was no gift. She was a person, and she deserved to be treated like one. She cries at the word free. The morning sun touched the curtains as Elena sat on the floor, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her eyes were open but distant, staring at the wood grain as if lost in another world. David made tea and quietly placed a warm cup near her. She didn't move. She hadn't said another word since free. David didn't push. He just sat nearby, close enough so she wouldn't feel alone. Minutes passed. Then slowly, Elena reached for the cup with both hands. She held it like it was something sacred warming her frozen fingers. She sipped carefully, eyes still shining with silent tears. "I'm sorry," David said gently, "for whatever they did to you." She glanced up. Her lips moved, barely. "You... not same." He blinked. "What?" She tapped her chest, then pointed to him. "You... not same like others." "You mean other humans?" She nodded. David smiled a little. "I get that. A lot." Her lips twitched. Almost a smile, but not quite. Then suddenly, Elena stood. She walked toward the window and looked out. The green trees, the birds flying above, the wind in the leaves, it all seemed so new to her. She touched the glass, amazed. David stepped up beside her. "You've never seen Earth before, have you?" She shook her head. "Sky. Not cold. Not dark." He looked at her, puzzled. "Where were you kept?" She hesitated. Her hands trembled. "Ship," she said at last. "Dark. Always dark. Cold walls. No voice." Her voice cracked. Lights hurt eyes. Metal cuffs. No name, just number. David felt something heavy in his chest. "They numbered you?" She nodded, then whispered, X-17-3. "No," he said firmly. "That's not your name. Your name is Elena." She looked at him. Really looked. Her lips trembled again. Then, very softly, she asked, "Why you help me?" David thought for a moment. "Because someone should have." Elena blinked, and her hand suddenly reached toward him, unsure. She touched his hand carefully, like he might vanish. Her fingers were cold. He didn't move. He just let her hold on. "You're safe now," he said. "You don't have to be scared." But she still looked scared. "Elena," he said gently, "you are free now. You can choose. Stay here. Leave. Anything you want. No one owns you." Her entire body froze. And then, tears fell again. Not quiet ones this time. Real, broken sobs burst from her lips as she dropped to her knees. She covered her face, shaking hard. The word free had shattered something inside her. David rushed to her side and held her gently. "It's okay. It's okay." She clung to him like a child. Her cries were raw, painful, and full of years of silence. "I not know how to be free," she said through tears. "You'll learn," David said softly. "We'll figure it out. Together." She looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "Together?" "Yes," he said. "Together." That night, David made her a room. It was small but warm. A soft bed, clean blankets, a little lamp. She looked around like a child seeing magic. "No cage," she whispered. "No cage," David confirmed. "Just comfort." Elena sat on the bed and looked up at him. Her voice was soft. "Can I stay?" David smiled. "As long as you want." Later, David sat in his own room, staring at the ceiling. She didn't just need food or rest. She needed healing. And he had no idea how to do that. But deep in his heart, he knew one thing for sure. No one was ever going to hurt her again. Alien hunters come looking. 3 days passed. Elena now walked slowly through the house in David's oversized clothes. Her silver robe had been folded away like a piece of her old life. She had learned to use the kitchen tap, turn on lights, and even say small words like warm, safe, and thank you. But she never stepped outside. She watched the trees from the window. The sun made her smile. But something in her eyes said she was waiting for something bad. David tried to make her feel normal. He showed her music, cooked simple meals, and fixed an old tablet to teach her words. Sometimes she laughed quietly, a soft, broken laugh, but it was real. Then, on the 4th night, the peace ended. It started with a sound, a hum in the sky, low and strange. David was in the garage fixing a drone when all his machines lost power. The lights went out. The garage door clicked shut on its own. He ran inside the house. Elena was already hiding under the table, shaking. "Power's out," David whispered, grabbing a flashlight. "No," she whispered. "They found me." His blood turned cold. "Who?" She crawled out and grabbed his arm. "Hunters, trackers from off-world." David looked out the window. At first he saw nothing. Then, a red dot moved across the trees, a drone. Not his. He pulled Elena back. "Stay low." 3 more red dots appeared. Then a shadow fell over the house. A silent ship, hovering above the treetops. "They're scanning," Elena said, voice tight. "For me, my body, my heat." "Can they see through walls?" She nodded. If walls are weak, David thought fast. His house had old insulation, weak shielding. No defense, but the garage. It was built with reinforced metal from his past space tech project, and it was shielded. "Come with me," he said, grabbing her hand. "We'll hide in the garage." They rushed across the hallway. David slammed the door shut behind them and locked it tight. Inside, he activated the backup shield generator, just enough to block scans. The lights flickered back on, faint blue. Elena was breathing fast. She crouched in the corner, whispering to herself in a language David didn't understand. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She swallowed. "I was a royal gift to a warlord, but I escaped that box. Someone smuggled me out and sent me to you." "Why me?" "I don't know," she said. "But you're different." David checked the monitors. The red drones hovered above. Then, 3 figures landed near the porch. Black armor, tall, armed. Alien symbols glowing on their chests. Elena gasped. "They're not guards. They're erasers." "Erasers?" "They erase memory, erase people. I was never meant to survive." David clenched his jaw. "Not this time." He opened a panel and took out an old EMP blaster. It was dusty but charged. "I'm going out there." Elena shook her head. "No. They'll kill you." "I built this house. I know every wire, every weak point, every trap. They don't." He touched her shoulder gently. "If they take you, they'll erase who you are. I won't let that happen." She stared at him, trembling. "You are not a gift," he said firmly. "You're a person, and I will protect you like one." Tears filled her eyes. "Be careful." He smiled. "Always." David opened the back panel and slipped outside under the cover of shadows. He moved through the trees and found the first drone. A quick shot, spark and silence. 1 down. He disabled the second and third using his homemade signal jammer. Then came the real danger. The 3 erasers stood near the front door, scanning the house. David climbed the roof and dropped a eye, flash grenade beside them. Boom! A blinding light. The alien staggered. David jumped down and fired the EMP blaster. The lead alien's armor shut down, sparking. Another raised a weapon, but David hit the switch. The ground trap activated, sending high-voltage current through the soil. 2 down. The third one turned and saw David. He charged. David dodged. Barely. They wrestled in the dirt. The alien was stronger, faster. But David reached his belt, pulse knife, and jammed it into the alien's armor. The alien dropped. David lay there gasping, bruised, but alive. Back in the garage, Elena was crying again, but this time in relief. She threw her arms around him. "You came back." He winced, holding his ribs. "Told you I would. You didn't have to fight for me." He looked into her violet eyes. "Yes, I did. That night they buried the bodies deep in the woods. No one would find them. But both of them knew this was not over. If hunters had come once, they would come again. A birthday turns into a battle. David never liked birthdays, but this one felt different. He was bruised, tired, and sore from the fight, but alive. More than that, he wasn't alone. Elena sat at the table in his workshop, wearing his hoodie, trying to understand a birthday candle. "You burn it?" she asked, tilting her head. He chuckled. "No, you light it and make a wish." She looked at the small flame, curious. "Wish?" David nodded. "It's something you want, something you hope for." She stared at the candle. The flame reflected in her violet eyes. "I wish," she whispered, "for no more cages." David didn't speak. He just smiled sadly. That was a good wish. They ate leftover soup for dinner. Elena had learned to hold a spoon the right way now. She even tried saying a joke, though it made little sense. David laughed anyway, but deep down he was on edge. The fight with the alien hunters had happened only 2 nights ago. He had disabled their tech and buried the bodies, but he knew more would come. Maybe today, maybe weeks from now, and worse, they might not send trackers next time. They might send a ship that didn't care who lived or died. Around midnight, the storm came. It wasn't a weather storm. It was a power storm, a drop in the atmosphere pressure, followed by a strange buzz in the air. David's lights flickered. His backup systems blinked red. "Elena, in the garage, now," he ordered. She didn't ask questions. She ran. David checked the scanners. Someone was jamming the airwaves again. But this time it was stronger, cleaner, military level. Then, a message appeared on his screen, written in alien script. But he could translate most of it. "Return the property, or Earth will bleed." David knew what they meant. Elena, she was never a gift. She was a possession, one that belonged to a powerful alien figure. And now, they wanted her back. The sky rumbled, his ceiling shook, and through the window he saw it. A ship, twice the size of a house, armed, floating just above the trees, and then it fired. Boom! A blast hit the front yard, blowing a crater into the earth. David ran to the garage, grabbing his tools, grenades, and the EMP launcher. Elena was hiding behind a metal cabinet. She looked at him, terrified. "They will kill us." "No," David said. "They'll try. But it's my birthday, and I've had enough surprises." He pressed a button on the wall. The house shifted. Hidden panels opened. Traps activated. Drones hummed to life. David had once worked for a private space tech company. He had built defensive systems for off-world colonies until the funding ran out. But he had kept the tech. And now, he was using every last piece. Outside, the alien. Ship deployed armored warriors, 10 of them fully suited with plasma rifles. David activated the holographic field. Copies of himself appeared across the field, confusing the aliens. He used this chance to launch a grenade from behind a wall. Boom, 2 down. Drones flew in, blasting sound waves and disrupting the enemy comms. Inside, Elena watched it all from the screen. Her hands were shaking. "Why does he fight for me?" she whispered. David fought smart. He lured them into dead zones, used EMP traps to freeze their weapons, and even tricked one into walking into his garage's shock chamber. But he wasn't fast enough for all of them. One alien cornered him behind a tree. The alien raised its plasma gun and froze. A blur moved through the trees. It was Elena. She had taken a stun baton and stabbed the alien from behind. The alien dropped. David stared at her, breathing hard. "You shouldn't be out here." She shook her head. "You protect me. I protect you." Finally, David reached the ship's power core. He placed a disruptor bomb against its shield and activated the timer. Time to say goodbye. He and Elena ran, dodging heat trails as the ship's cannons tried to track them. Seconds later, kaboom! The ship exploded in the sky, sending fire and smoke across the trees. They dropped to the ground and covered their heads as pieces rained down, and then silence. Real, deep silence. David sat up slowly. His arm was bleeding. His shirt was torn. Elena crawled over, checking him. "You okay?" He winced, then smiled. "Best birthday ever." She laughed. A real laugh this time. That night they didn't sleep. They sat outside on the grass staring at the stars. You fight like warrior, Elena said. I fight like a man with a reason, David replied. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I was never anyone's gift. No, he said. But, maybe, you were mine. Elena's choice. The wreckage of the alien ship still smoked in the forest clearing. Trees were scorched. The air smelled of metal and fire. David stood with his arms crossed, watching quietly. He didn't speak. His body ached from the battle, but his mind raced even more. Would they come again? Was Earth now a target? Was Elena safe? Really safe? Behind him, Elena stepped out from the house wearing a soft white dress David had found for her. It was simple, human, and far from the cold silver robe she had worn when she first arrived. She walked to him, barefoot, silent. More will come. She said quietly. David nodded. I know. I don't want you hurt anymore because of me. He turned to face her. You're not the reason. They are. She looked down. But if I leave, maybe they stop. David stepped closer. You don't have to go. We can run. Hide somewhere off-grid. I can build protection. She raised her eyes. But I don't want to run anymore. David was silent. Elena's hands trembled as she spoke. My life was always chosen by others. They decided where I go, what I wear, what I say, even what I feel. For the first time someone asks me what I want. She paused. So let me choose. David's heart thudded. What do you choose? Just then, a humming sound came from above. Another ship. But this one wasn't hostile. It was smaller, sleek, silver with blue lights. It hovered quietly, and then landed in the open field behind the trees. Elena grabbed David's hand. Her body was tense. From the ship, a single figure stepped out. A tall alien, in deep blue robes. His eyes were gentle. No weapons, no armor. He bowed deeply. I am Envoy Lurin, the being said, using a translator device. I speak on behalf of the Neutral Systems Union. We tracked your distress signal and we found the records. What was done to you, Elena, was a crime. Elena's breath caught. You know me? The envoy nodded. You were a diplomat's daughter, kidnapped, erased from the records by a corrupt syndicate. But someone inside helped you escape and sent you here. Elena looked at David, stunned. You are free now, Lurin said softly. No one owns you, but if you wish, you can return with us. Your home planet is safe again. Your mother lives. She asks for you. Her hands shook. Her eyes watered. My mother, Lurin nodded. She never stopped searching. David slowly let go of her hand. His voice was calm but heavy. It's your choice. Elena looked between them, between her past and her present. Minutes passed. Birds chirped. Wind rustled through broken trees. Then Elena took a deep breath. She walked toward the ship. David's chest tightened. But halfway there, she stopped. She turned around and walked back to David. Everyone waited. She placed her hand on his chest. I will visit my home. I will see my mother. I will heal old wounds. David tried to smile. But, she added, this is my new home. With you. He blinked. You'd come back? She nodded. I choose my path now. And my path leads to you. Lurin smiled softly. We will ensure her name is restored, and we will grant this territory protection. She is no longer hunted. David let out a deep breath. The ship departed a few hours later, taking Elena with it, but not forever. David stood alone again. The same workshop, the same quiet. But now, it wasn't sadness, it was hope. 3 weeks passed. David returned to his old work. He fixed machines. He rebuilt the parts of his home destroyed during the attack. But every night he looked at the stars and wondered, will she return? Did she really mean it? Then one evening as he worked late in the garage, he heard it. A soft knock. He opened the door. There she stood, Elena, dressed in soft blue, hair flowing, eyes shining. He didn't say a word. She smiled, lifted a small bag and said, "I brought dinner." He laughed, a deep, surprised laugh. "You came back." "I said I would," she replied. And just like that, the world felt complete. A gift for both. The stars blinked gently above the small wooden cabin in the hills. Wind whispered through the tall trees, and the soft hum of quiet peace filled the air. Inside, David stirred a pot of stew, while soft music played on an old radio. The fire crackled, warming the room. Books, tools, and strange alien gadgets sat beside each other, a home built from two worlds. Elena sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, wearing a knitted sweater David had given her. Her eyes followed the firelight, calm and thoughtful. "Never knew what home meant," she said suddenly. "Not really." David looked up from the pot. "And now?" She smiled softly. "Now, I do." A month had passed since Elena returned from her home planet. She had visited her mother, stood in the ruins of her old home, and finally learned the truth. How the royal council had sold her off, how the family's power had crumbled under corruption. But her mother had survived, waiting, hoping. Elena had hugged her one last time and said, "I found peace in the arms of a human." And she had come back, not to hide, not to escape, but to begin. David placed 2 bowls on the table. "Dinner's ready." Elena took a bite and blinked. "You finally learned how to add spice." "I read alien recipes," David said with a grin. She giggled. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver box. David frowned. "What's this?" She opened it. Inside was a glowing blue crystal. "It's a bonding stone," she explained. "A gift from my mother. In my culture, we only give it to someone we choose for life." David's throat tightened. "You mean," she nodded, gently placing the crystal in his hand. "I choose you, not because I have to, because I want to." He stared at the crystal. Warmth spread through his chest. He never thought anyone would give him something so simple and yet so powerful. "Have something too," David said, reaching under the table. He pulled out a small box wrapped in cloth. Elena opened it. Inside was a necklace. Simple, handmade, with a carved piece of wood in the shape of a star. "I made it from the tree outside. The one where you stood the first night." She held it to her chest. "Now I have 2 homes, and both are in this room." That night they sat on the porch wrapped in one blanket, watching meteors fall like silver rain across the sky. "Do you think others like me will ever find peace here?" Elena asked. David nodded. "If they meet the right people, maybe." She turned to him. "Then maybe we help them. Together." He smiled. "A human and an alien, starting a future?" "Not just starting," she said. "Living it." Time passed. Seasons changed. They built more than just a life together. They built a place. A place where aliens who escaped pain and cages could come. A place where humans who felt lost could find meaning. And at the heart of it stood 2 people. One man who was never looking for love, and one woman who was never given a choice, until the universe brought them together. David's birthday came again. This time, the house was full. Alien children played in the garden. Human engineers worked on fusion lights. Elena baked her first Earth cake, slightly burnt but full of love. She walked over holding a new gift. David opened it. Inside was a photo of their first night, her in his hoodie, standing beside the fire. He looked at her. "Why this photo?" "Because it was the night," she said, taking his hand, "when I stopped surviving and started living." He smiled. "Best gift I ever got." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Funny. I used to think I was the gift." He looked at her, eyes full of warmth. "You still are."